What's up, guys? It is Sunday, May 4th. Today, after the big David Benavidez win over his Zurdo Ramirez. And I'm going to jump into that. Before I do that, I want to just wish my son a happy birthday today. He was 12 years old. We went and met up with family, and he invited some of his friends at a local arcade place here, and got to celebrate his 12th birthday, which is it's kind of bittersweet because this will be my last year that I get to spend with him as a young boy until he turns 13 next year and becomes a teenager and then starts to become a man. So it's crazy. It's funny that his mom and I were talking, and she said it's just fitting that your oldest son will be born on one of the biggest boxing weekends of the year, which is Cinco de Mayo weekend. So he was born in the morning, and that evening we were in the hospital, and I stayed there with her and watching Floyd Mayweather, Marcos Maidana in their first bout in the hospital. So yeah, man, my son just it had to be his luck to be born on this weekend. So but happy birthday to you, mijo. I love you. So let's jump into the main event from last night, the one that was I don't want to say shook the boxing world, but had a lot of people stunned. David Benavidez, the Mexican monster, El Monstro, comes out and just absolutely demolishes the two belt holding unified cruiserweight champion in Zurdo Gilberto Ramirez. I mean, I've been talking about this fight with guys in my group chat here on this channel. I like Zurdo Ramirez. I think his move from light heavy to cruiser was a good move for him. Obviously, he won 2 titles in that division. But, man, he just got completely outworked, outclassed, and owned by the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, in this fight. From the very jump, David clearly, everyone knew he was going to be faster. Much, much faster. The speed on David Benavidez at that weight is it's incredible. It is fucking incredible. To see a guy at that weight move that fast, as far as hand speed goes, it was crazy. It was amazing to see, and we was ending every single round with an 8 to 10 punch combination, and I am not bullshitting you guys. It was one of those, it's that type of combination that you're usually finishing your rounds out if you're on the pads, if you're on the mitts, and you're just throwing as fast as you can. It was like that at the end of every round, and then sometimes in the middle of the rounds when Zurdo would come in and try to hold and try to slow the pace down, David would make a little bit of space and then explode with fast combinations inside, or he'd frame and come over the top with the right hand, or frame and then come inside with the left hook, or like a uppercut shovel hook here, bam, inside. He was all over Zurdo, and poor guy, man, Zurdo, his corner is pleading with him in between after the first and the second round. They were telling him, you need to stop fighting his fight. Stop trying to have this macho fight with him, this machismo type fight. But, you're telling a Mexican to not fight like that on one of the biggest Mexican boxing weekends, Cinco de Mayo, against a guy named the Mexican Monster who's trying to take his titles. I have to tip my hat to Ramirez. He didn't run. He didn't get on his bike. He was willing to exchange in the phone booth with David Benavidez, even if he knew it was going to be to his detriment. I thought he probably felt like if he was able to land a big shot, that he would be able to turn the fight around, but he never could land that shot. David Benavidez had a beautiful jab in this fight. Not just the fast combinations. He was really working off that just shotgun jab, just bam, fast, hard jab that would snap Zurdo's head back. He was ripping to the body with both hands. He would shoot that jab and then rip the right hand to the body on Zurdo. He was going liver side. So he worked top to bottom. He didn't just headhunt. He worked the body in the first 2-3 rounds. He was going to the body beautifully. He still was going to the body in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. He just fought a brilliant fight, man. He really did. And Zurdo was never in this fight from the opening bell. Clearly by his corner, just pleading with him to just fight a smarter fight and be technical, but it just never happened. And then in the fourth round, it was kind of towards the end of the round. I think it was like the last 15, 20 seconds. Ramirez is trying to lean on him, and David just takes a step back and just uncorks like that big, long combination, but it's landing. He takes a step back. Zurdo takes a knee. He takes the 8. He gets up. Then the round does finish, so he got saved by the bell after he stood up, so he didn't take any more punishment. But then, David came back in the 5th and was working him over really well. His Zurdo's right eye was starting to swell shut. It was getting really close, and then in the 6th, he hurt him with the big right hand that put Zurdo up against the ropes, and he was going for that peel the glove down and then come over with the right hand. He'd peel the other side, left hook. He'd peel and then rip to the body. And then Zurdo was kind of falling into him, and then he did it again, stepped back and just hit him with like 5, 6 shots, turned him, and then he hit him with like 4 or 5. Bam! Hits him with a hard left on that already very badly swollen closing left eye or right eye of Zurdo. And Zurdo immediately, you see his head go back. You could see the pain set in on his face. And then he just takes the knee, spits the piece out. The referee starts giving him the count. He gets to about 6, 7. And Zurdo looks up at the ref, shakes his head. The ref counts 7, 8. He looks up at him and shakes his hand like, no, I'm done. And he's holding his eye. The ref doesn't finish the 10. It gets waved off. I mean, what a performance by the Mexican Monster. I would have preferred... so congratulations to him. He becomes the new WBA, WBO Cruiserweight Champions of the world. And now he's got a lot of options now. I really wish he wouldn't have went the Canelo route, the call out. I get why he did it, because Canelo was there, but he didn't stay to watch the David Benavidez fight. He was there to support Jaime Munguia, who won the super middleweight title on the co-main event versus Resendez, which I thought, on paper, I thought it was going to be a better fight. Resendez just, I don't know if he was overwhelmed by the volume and the pace of Munguia, but I'll get to that in a minute. But Canelo was there, but after seeing interviews today, he was already leaving during the walkouts or during the fight of the Benavidez fight, the main event. And he was there like, why are you leaving? The main event, it's just getting started. And he's like, I came here to watch Jaime Munguia, and that's it. So I do like that David called out Bivol and Better Beef. Like, I think those are the two fights that the hardcore boxing purists want to see, because they're big names and they're good fights. It's not just two big names or an old guy that you can call out to make money. I think they're great fights at the light heavyweight division. If he goes down and can beat Bivol and become undisputed, or I think they stripped Bivol of the IBF. So he would be unified, but he wouldn't be undisputed. But even if he can't get the Bivol fight, the Better Beef fight would be great, because Better Beef was the boogeyman for the longest time. He's 1-1 with Bivol, but Better Beef is getting older. I think he's already going to be 41 this year, because he was 40 when he fought Bivol the second time in the first fight. So, Father Time catches up to us all. So I think the longer that one gets postponed or gets waited out, it's the chances of Better Beef winning that fight go down, and the chances of David having another great performance like he did against Zurdo Ramirez go up. I'm not saying that Better Beef and Zurdo are the same. Better Beef has much better footwork, and I think he has better power at that weight division at light heavy. So, but those are two great fights, and he also had the opportunity to call out Jaio Pataya, who was at cruiserweight as well. He currently holds the Zuffa belt, which nobody really cares, but he was the IBF champion. I know he got stripped, but I'm not sure if that's like fully all the way like legit, if they are not going to give it to him back or whatever the case may be. But I mean, I think that'd be a really good fight for Benavidez, but I just think as much as I like Jairo Pataya, and he is like a future superstar, if he can just keep stacking wins, uh, I don't think he has a big enough name here in the States. I think whoever David Benavidez fights now, moving forward, it's not going to matter. It's going to be kind of like the Canelo days when he was fighting, you know, James Kirkland, Volt Bilderem, John Ryder, like guys who don't have a big, you know, name for the casuals, but you'll still watch it because it was Canelo. So I think Benavidez after this performance is going to hit that, you know, hit that next tier of whoever he fights, people are going to watch him fight. So that's great for him. But other than that, man, I with the exception of the Canelo call out, it was, I don't want to say it was cringy because I understand that it is something that people wanted to see for the longest time. But I mean, if Canelo's coming back, and I believe it's going to be at 68 to take on Christian and Billy in September, and Benavidez is at 200. I mean, he was 196 at the weigh-ins, and I know he's going to go back down to 75 to fight at light heavyweight. But even if he could make 68, I think he does his best work at 75 anyways. I wouldn't even want him to go back down to 68, you know, risk an injury, because when you are cutting weight like that, especially the way that boxers do it, they do like a long cut style over the training camp, as opposed to like MMA guys who will find a good weight, a training weight during camp, and then just squeeze the water out the last minute. I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's two completely different sports. I think you have to be able to keep those fast twitch longer, those muscles longer in the boxing game, because you're going 12 rounds. You know, it's a 36-minute fight if it goes all 12, compared to an MMA for a championship fight, it's 25, 5-5s. You know, and the non-title fights are 3-5, so a 15-minute fight compared to a, you know, 36-minute fight. It's crazy. So, but I don't know why the boxers just haven't been able to dial in the cutting as well as some of the MMA guys. And I'm not saying everybody gets it perfect, because there's a lot of guys that still miss weight. But you know, I don't understand. You know, because I've heard interviews of like Robert Garcia and some of the others trainers who were like, you know, our guy was still 7 pounds over on Monday and they had to weigh in Friday. And I'm like, 7 pounds? Like, shit, if I was ever 7 pounds on a Monday to weigh in on a Friday, that was going to be like easy. That's a 1 hour cut, you know, the night before. And I'm probably still going to sleep another pound off and be a pound under, you know. The easiest cuts I had when I was fighting was like 15 to 16 pounds on a Monday to weigh in on Friday. So if I was like 160, I'll say like anywhere between 13 to 14, 15 pounds. So if I was 170 to 68 on Monday, had to weigh 55 on Friday, that was an easy cut. Like it just is, you know. You just scale back, you know, water load earlier on in the week, scale it down, push all that shit out. I probably wouldn't eat after Wednesday night. I'd have my last meal, small meal Wednesday night after the workout. Then I wouldn't eat Thursday, weigh in Friday morning, then have a lunch after that. So you're only fasting for, you know, 36 hours or something like that. But you're still staying hydrated, and then you start to push all that out the night before, and that was an easy cut. But for whatever reason, the boxers just haven't dialed it in to that, you know, scientifically that well. But but I don't even know if my dad and the guys we were talking about today at my son's party, my dad was like, well, Canelo has a point, because Benavidez is so big. Why would he want to fight somebody that big? And I'm like, well, even if he makes the weight, and this is the thing that's different with the boxers and MMA too. I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying just the differences. If you can make the weight, it doesn't matter what you rehydrate up to. I don't feel like it matters. You know, as long as you're professional, you come in, you meet the weight, then that's it. Your obligation is done, and then you just show up to fight the next day. If I can rehydrate 20 pounds overnight, that's advantage for me. I know how to cut weight better than you, and I'm going to have the edge as far as the weight wise or maybe even the strength wise. But that's why I don't understand these rehydration clauses. Like, that's just like, dude, if he can make the weight, then he made the weight. I don't understand why you're putting that rehydration clause on the guy. And I don't know. I could see Canelo doing that if that fight was ever made. But then again, I can see him not doing it because people are like, man, that's kind of a hoe move. You know, nobody liked it when Floyd was doing that for all these years. Nobody liked when Tank did that to Ryan. You know, even Haney, who I was a fan of earlier, not so much as of late, just because of the talking and the things he says. But I do respect Devin. He even said, he was like, you know, Tank was a hoe for that. Like, if he can make the weight, then what does it matter what he rehydrates up to? If you think you're such a badass motherfucker, then y'all both make the weight and then go beat him, you know? So, but I get it, you know, people, boxing is just so old school like that. And I understand where some people are like, well, that ain't fair. I mean, it's not, but if the guy can make the weight, then he made the weight. You know, if he rehydrates 20, you rehydrate 10, that's on you. But maybe you perform better at a lighter weight where if a guy puts on too much weight, he can be sluggish, you know, he's not going to be fully recovered. I mean, if he's putting on that much weight overnight, that means he cut a lot, which means your brain's not fully saturated with fluids yet. Your body's probably going to be a little bit weaker. You're not going to be able to take shots to the body. That's why those guys come out fast. They want to try to get you out of there fast. But if you can withstand those onslaughts or those early rounds and then start punishing the body, I mean, we've seen guys fade. So it works both ways. You know, I just think the whole optics of the whole thing of where, oh, he's looks so big, it's not a fair fight. You know, what do the best guys say? Skills pay the bills. If you're that good, then what does the weight matter? You know, now there's a certain extent, of course, I get it, but I mean, if the guy's outweighing you by 10 pounds, I mean, if you're that good, you could still beat them. You can still beat them, you know. And so I don't know. That's all I have to say about the weight and stuff like that, because I don't really agree with that. I think if the guy makes the weight, then he makes the weight. But I don't think Canelo's going to take that fight, even if he makes 68, because I don't think David, even if the fight was made, if I was David, I would stand fast on no rehydration clause. But another thing that jumped out at me yesterday too, that they were saying that David, if he would have won, which he did, that he'd be the first fighter in history to hold titles at 68, 75, and 200. So super middleweight, light heavy, and cruiser. And I'm thinking in my head last night, I'm like, that can't be right. Like, somebody's got to be making a mistake. Because I was like just thinking, Roy Jones did that, didn't he? Like, I'm sure he did. And I had to look it up, and I was mistaken. So Roy won the super middleweight title, the light heavyweight title, and then jumped over cruiserweight and won the heavyweight title, then came back down to light heavy and regained the light heavyweight title. So, yeah, so I was off on that. It was crazy to me that he would just jump completely from 75 over past 200 and not have at least a fight or try to collect another title at cruiserweight at that time. But, you know, Roy was the man. You know, he was one of the best to ever do it. You know, and then, yeah, man, Roy was next level. But that was the main event. Let me guys know what you think, what the best matchup for David Benavidez is. I really like the Bivol matchup at 75. And if that fight can't be made and the Better Beef fight can't be made, I really like the Jai Opetaia fight at cruiserweight. Like I mentioned, Jaime Munguia, Canelo was in the house. Jaime Munguia won his first title since holding a title at 54, which was years ago. Like you said, he beat Resendiz last night. I thought he was going to stop Resendiz a few times in this fight where he was just landing big shots. But Resendiz is, you know, as tough as they come. He stayed in there, went the decision. Munguia looked good, man. His first fight with Eddie Reynoso, I wasn't so sure if it was going to be a good fit. I think Eddie Reynoso works well with Canelo. But we've seen guys like Andy Ruiz who did one training camp there and then they didn't come back. Guys like Oscar Valdez, who's been with Eddie Reynoso for multiple fights, but I think he was coming towards the end of his career too, and he was just trying to, find something at the end to get a spark, I get like that competitive edge with the new trainer, and then being in the gym with Canelo and Andy Ruiz, you know, maybe get something going there. So he was kind of up and down with his career with Eddie Reynoso. And then Munguia's last fight, he didn't look that great. I mean, he actually lost. I think it was either his last fight or the fight before, which was his first fight with Eddie Reynoso. So that just shows, man, whenever you move trainers, if you're lucky, you get, a good performance, after your first time working with them. But usually it takes at least 2 to 3 fights to really get a rhythm with each other, build a rapport where you're starting to think on the same levels, where you could be like in a mid session or a sparring session and you already know what your coach is wanting you to do without you even having to say it. I had the same coaches my entire career, and we could run an entire mid session, six, we would do 8 rounds, where we switch back and forth, round on the pads, full speed, round on the bag, full speed, and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And, we wouldn't even have to talk some days. I already knew what he wanted. So, but we had that rapport over a decade with each other. So, but I think that's good with Munguia, him working with Eddie Reynoso, and now they've been together multiple fights, and he still has Canelo in there that he's going to learn from and pick his brain and get advice from. So he looked great. So shout out to him. I believe he captured the WBA super middleweight title. Yeah, I believe so, because that was the title that Resendez took off of Caleb Plant, I believe, WBA, the black belt. So that was good. And you know what? And I have to give a shout out to Oscar De La Hoya at PBC. This was actually one of the better fight events that they have put on. I went to the Virgil Ortiz, who did he fight in January? Boots came in the ring. I can't remember who it was. Oh my God. But that was like probably one of the shittiest events I've ever been to. And usually a live event is fun, and this one was not good. The matchups were not good. The fights were not good. And even the Virgil fight, he got him out of there in the second round. But and that was a Golden Boy card, and I actually addressed that on an episode. But this one was completely different. The main card, there was 5 fights on the card. Every single one of them delivered. I mean, it was a really good card. Let me pull up the names of the earlier guys, because all the fights were pretty good. Bear with me, guys. Because, let's see, to start off the event, we had Ismael Flores defeats Isaac Lucero in a unanimous decision. That was the guy from Argentina taking on Isaac Lucero, which that was a back and forth fight. I believe Lucero was the favorite, and Ismael Flores came in from Argentina and just, won 98-92, 98-92, and then 99-91 on the scorecards. That was a great fight. And then the Tito Sanchez versus Jorge Chavez was a crazy fight, man. Tito Sanchez was looking really good early. Jorge Chavez did not go away. And then Tito Sanchez just surges in the 9th round and scores a great, great knockout. But that fight was back and forth the entire time. Like, Tito was winning a majority of the rounds, but the shots that both guys were landing back and forth was just amazing. I mean, these guys were there to fight. And then the Oscar Duarte versus Angel Fierro fight, it was the first 4 rounds were very slow, which was kind of weird because we're used to seeing Oscar Duarte let his hands go and really, get busy on the inside and use his jab and rip those shots to the body. But Angel Fierro came in 4 pounds overweight in this fight, and he used a lot of footwork in this fight. And I think maybe him not cutting those extra pounds and draining himself down gave him the extra spring in his legs to stay on his bike for that long. because if he would have slowed down in the mid rounds between 4 and 7 is when Oscar Duarte really started to land a lot of big shots, especially ripping shots to the body and then coming up with the left hook. So he'd rip and then come up with the left uppercut inside, like vintage Chavez style. And that's what Robert Garcia was telling him in between rounds. Go to the body, rip him to the body. He's slowing down. We have to slow him down, but we got to make him slow down so that we can start landing big shots. The unofficial scorecard on the zone last night had Angel Fierro winning by 3 rounds. So I think they had him like 115, 113. But then the official scorecards came out. One judge had Duarte winning 115, 113. The middle judge had Angel Fierro winning 116, 112. And then the last judge had Oscar Duarte winning 116, 112. So the guys on the desk were saying that it wasn't necessarily like a big time robbery, but they definitely had the fight going the other way. I thought it was close. I wasn't really mad with it. I mean, some of those rounds were very, very close, where it just came down to like one flurry or maybe one big counter shot at the end of the round. So I wasn't upset with the decision, and I'm also a big fan of Robert Garcia and his guys. So I like to see when his guys win. But it was a good fight by Angel Fierro. But yeah, be professional, man. You can't. It's bad enough when you miss weight by a little bit, but when you miss it by 4 pounds, it's very unprofessional. So. And then I already covered Munguia, and then of course the main event, David Bain. But it was a great card for Golden Boy and PBC. So I mean, I give respect when respect is due, where it's earned, and I call it like I see it. But that was a great card for Mexican Independent, for Cinco de Mayo weekend. And then we had the Naoya Inoue Junto Nakatani fight early morning. I saw the last 3 rounds. I think I turned it on in the 9th, and Inoue had a clear lead. Junto Nakatani did a lot of good work in the mid rounds. Usually when Inoue slows down, he'll start strong. He kind of slows in between 5, 7, 8, but then he'll surge back again, and that's pretty much what he did in this fight. He won a unanimous decision. Got up early. Junto Nakatani did some really good work in the mid rounds, and then I believe like the 9th, he might have won the 9th, and then Inoue kind of took over from there and had the unanimous decision. But great day of boxing, great day, of fights, because we also had UFC in the morning as well from Australia, but I'm not going to cover that. I'm going to keep this a strictly boxing episode, and I'll recover that in full on another episode. But thank you guys so much for watching, man. It was like I keep saying, it was a great day and night of boxing, especially on one of the best weekends for boxing is Cinco de Mayo weekend. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications. Watch fights, drink pints. See you guys on the next one. Viva Mexico, cabrones!